What a fabulous afternoon. I can't think of anything else that has been on message, that has been on message, that has been on message. From day one, when we had the pleasure to hear from Robert Stein, all the way through to this amazing panel of executive women. And I haven't prepared, well, I actually did. I prepared a fabulous slideshow. It was like planting a tree in a forest, wasn't it? Because there are so many fabulous slideshows. But what I wanted to do was to make sure that I absorbed the messages of all the other previous speakers. And I guess the question is, what does kindness have to do with an art gallery or a museum? And in fact, why am I even here? And that's a question I could probably ask myself, because 4 years ago, I could not have imagined doing what I do now. For those that have had a look at the bio or the abstract, I found myself in London being elected to run an international NGO called the World Kindness Movement, which is the peak global body representing 23 odd nations. And its charter is to connect nations and people to create a kinder world. Now, it had been around for quite a while. It crystallised in 97, but it actually started in 63 in Japan. And to their credit, they stayed with it. It's now 50 years old. But in 97, on the back of an APEC meeting, they decided that they needed to form a coalition of the good-willing. And it spent the next 17 years working together, sharing ideas together, very much the same as what is happening here. In fact, we had our General Assembly only 2 weeks ago in Sydney. It was our 8th General Assembly. We've still got a long way to go. We put a proposal forward. A proposal and a plan to change the world for the better. And the international community bought it. They believed it. So for the first time, the Secretariat moved from Singapore to Australia. And that is scary. When we arrived back to Sydney, Her Excellency, now Dame Marie Bashir, opened the doors to Government House, invited us in to say thank you and to hold the first Goodwill Ambassador event. And I was at a workshop today and I was asked to write a letter to somebody who I admired and respected and influenced me, and it was difficult. It was really difficult because the leadership, which is this afternoon or today's topic, in the public eye, it is difficult to find leaders. But I have to say that Marie Bashir is one leader who inspires me. And don't mistake kindness for weakness. It is having to sometimes make that hard call. I have had a surreal journey. I had been involved in big picture projects, Sydney Olympics being one, and I like to deconstruct problems. I like to break them down to find out the right question to ask, because quite often we end up finding an answer to a question that we don't need to ask. And the question when we got the Sydney Olympics was not how much it's going to cost, not how many staff do we need, and when we need it, and where we're going to get them from, or how we're going to house them. That wasn't the question we should have asked in 96. In 1996, I told SOCOG, the Olympic Organising Committee, the question we should be asking is, why can't we find staff now? When we don't have double the amount of hotel rooms, when we don't have 100% occupancy, and when we don't have a 17,000 bed Olympic Village, why do we have staffing issues now? So I was given a week to come up with a figure, a dollar figure for staffing. And in 3 days I came back to them and I said, the dollar figure is easy to work out, that's not the issue. But the reason that we don't have staff right now is because we treat them like crap. It's that simple. Australia has the highest percentage per capita of casuals in the world. We are so focused on yield management, we have high rates of pay. So we have casuals, which means that when you're busy, you work them to death. Back-to-back shifts. When you're quiet, you starve them to death. So they leave. So we had to come up with a new model. We had to come up with something that was going to change that. And if you look at every single issue you have in the workplace, every single problem you have, there is a solution. But what really gets me is that we think it's an excuse to take the lesser of two evils. What is that? I'm going to give you an option. You can have this evil, and look up the definition of evil, or you can have this evil. And I think we can rethink this. What is the kinder option? Sometimes it takes a little bit more thinking. Sometimes it takes thinking outside the square. But the kinder option is long-lasting. It's more stable. And it will give you a greater return. France has... I don't post a lot. I don't post a lot on LinkedIn. I shared one article about France, and it got like 60 likes, and I don't know how many shares, or I'm not sure how it works. And what France has done this year is that they've allowed to have their sick leave, their bereavement leave, shared amongst the workforce. So if a father or a mother needs to attend to a child who's hospitalised with terminal illness and they've exhausted all their leave, anonymously, co-workers can donate their leave to support that person. Guess how much that cost? Nothing. It came from the staff. But to the government's credit, they endorsed it. You look at, I had a situation where we have to cut 10% of the staff because times are tough. So which jobs can afford to go? And those of you from our friends in Europe, I'm sure you've been through this. We've been through it in Australia as well, and don't think that the recession missed us. We've had hard times here too. We've had under-resourced human resource departments, and compliance has increased. So what ends up happening is that you end up with a HR department that is so focused on compliance, the role of actually delivering and maintaining a positive culture in the workplace is crippled. So why do we have to have so much compliance? So we have an OH&S committee. We say that's occupational health and safety, but it's not. It's not there to protect the staff, and it's not there to protect the company. It is simply there to mitigate risk, to make sure the insurance companies don't have to give their money back, your money back. And I think a lot's been said about the bottom line, and a lot's been said about economy. We've got a G20. I'm supposed to be going to the G20. I can't even believe that as well. And when I get back from the G20, I'm supposed to be meeting the French president. And at the end of the day, I'm just a dad. I'm just a dad that was in a school who saw some inappropriate behaviour in the playground. And I had the opportunity to tell somebody things you shouldn't say. I was getting a pat on the back for raising $23,000 for the school P&C. And I mentioned that we made a clown cry. Who does that? How can you make a clown cry? But we had this young girl, 25 years of age, came all the way from Cronulla to our school in the eastern suburbs to donate her time to blow up balloons, make balloon animals and paint faces and do all sorts of tricks. and she had the balloons taken off her, blown up by the parents and thrown back in her face because she was too slow. That's one of many stories, and I don't want to be a downer today because it's been really good, but I thought, well, this needs to be addressed. And when I reported it, they said, well, tell us who the parents were. And I'm looking around the room and I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's not such a good idea. We don't really need to go on a bitch hunt here because it's just going to make it worse. Why don't we focus on the school motto? And the school motto was kindness and courtesy. And the next event was on the 13th of November, which is World Kindness Day. And from that, the response was, what's the appropriate level of kindness? We don't want to overdo it. I didn't say it, but I thought very loudly to myself, more than the appropriate level of meanness. That was like pulling teeth, but we had the first event 5 years ago, 3,000 people came to that event. It then went to the national parent body and we got it to 2,300 schools, 400 events in 3 months. And it snowballed and it snowballed. That got the international attention and I got invited to Singapore and the rest is kind of history. We've since signed up China, the Ukraine and Switzerland and Thailand. The Thai Prime Minister is now involved in hosting the first ever global summit for kindness, the K20, announced and made the front page of the Bangkok Post. It's an incredible story, but what has it got to do with you? What difference can you make? If you think you have any influence at all, you have influence in your home, in your workplace, and if your workplace has influence in the community, and your community has influence in the city or the state, then you can make a difference. And you can change the world. But you need to be involved. And the irony that I've discovered this weekend is that this organisation started through the Ministry of Culture of different companies, but not one museum or art gallery, to my knowledge, has been involved in it. So I'm going to put down a challenge to you. Because evil prevails when good people do nothing. And the biggest problem we are facing is not the bullies and it's not the victims. It's the bystanders that are gripped in fear, who feel they can't make a difference. Collectively in this room, the amount of influence you have, and we don't ask for money, we don't want money, we don't want fundraising, we don't want government grants. We have a sustainable funding model and it's sorted. What we want is engagement. That's what's going to change the world. And that's what's going to make a difference. And if you want to have a happy workplace, you want to have inspired staff, you want to have people that don't want to go home because they're so thrilled to be there, then have a purpose greater than yourself, greater than your 4 walls and the artefacts. Have a purpose to contribute to that community. I'm not talking about a novelty check. I'm not talking about giving money or allowing pay deductions or people to take staff off on public holidays. To create a kind of workplace, you have to embed it in the workplace, and that means to put it on the agenda. And I'm very pleased to see one of our kindness cards has just been registered in Turkey today. So I would like to ensure that when you go back, take all this valuable information you've got. Don't let the euphoria of a conference dissipate. Implement it, embed it, and get kindness on your agenda. And I thank very much our gracious hosts. Corinne and Mark, you've been absolutely amazing, and I am honoured and humbled to be in such good company. And I thank you all very much for this opportunity.